Brian, I think if I could summarize, this is advice that we've given to companies large and small. If I could summarize some of your approach to partnership, there's a fundamental mantra that businesses should think about, which is only do what only you can do. Yeah. And partner for the rest. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, there's sort of stick to your core, right? What are you good at? What does the customer expect from you? And just be that, right? And certainly at the startup level, and really at the growth level too, you can only do so much at one time. If you go too broad, you will fail, sort of across all of those categories. But if you stay narrow and go deep, then you have the ability to own something. So that's always my advice to companies. What do you do? Why do you do it? And why do you do it better than everyone else? Hey, do that. So
it sounds good. The challenge I see is the data. If you partner, the partner may not be as free and willing to give you the data. I mean, what do you think about this idea of growing with partnerships? Because you're doing this now, today. How do you solve that gap of having access to the data that you need to create a bigger picture, to be anticipate need, et cetera?
Mm-hmm. I mean, there are different kind of partnership models, right? You can define who's merchant of record, first of all. So you have partnerships that just more or less create leads for you and they get our customers. Of course, we have all data then. The other one is where the partner is merchant of record and they need to provide us with the data we need to fulfill the service. So we need to know who's in the car, from where to where he wants to go, at which point of time and which date, right? And phone number and email address to provide our service. For us, what's important, and that's our service is tailored to business travelers. For us, like all compliance is extremely important. So this is why we invest so much into the quality of our service, making sure in all 54 countries where we are available that we are compliant with local rules and regulations. And that's the same for data, right? I mean, we're a German-based company, so you fall under the jurisdiction of European data law. We would only share actually what we are allowed to share, and that's a big topic, right? Especially if you're dealing with, let's say, American companies that would love to get more data that we are willing to share and we are allowed to share. But we also would not compromise on that one. So that's part of our service, say, like we are compliant. Same as what happens in the car stays in the car, let's say it that way. And that also don't share that information that you cannot share. But it's sometimes a conflict of interest, yeah.
Yeah, it can be pretty tricky, especially you didn't even think about the regulation side of that. That's absolutely true. Let's look at, I want to ask another question about Blacklane. So Google Maps, Google, as we discussed earlier, is about eliminating friction points in the customer experience, wherever they are in their life. Google Maps integrated rideshare in their app with Lyft and Uber in there, and then the widely reported intention to offer their own service. Would you partner with them today, or would you be afraid to partner with them because they'll learn off of you and then incorporate that into their own solution?
We are discussing with them, so we are using Google technology to do that, like for our tracking, for our calculating the prices based on distance. We are in discussion of integrating that into Google Maps. So far, our business model is we have 1 hour lead time, but give a booking guarantee to the customer. So this is what I said before in this circle. If you remember that, for me, it's a different kind of use cases. Because we often get also the question like, what is the difference? Why shouldn't I just use a Uber, or why should I use a Lyft? And it's like it's different use cases. Our sweet spot is medium to longer distance and associated with airport transfer, with business travel. And no one is booking a flight with 1 hour lead time or less than 1 hour lead time. And then we would integrate with Google, but our use case is much bigger with integrating with travel like booking platforms where you make your round-trip bookings. But we would not be afraid.
Yeah. So that gap that you're addressing is, do you get the instant, I need a ride right now, which is more of a Uber Lyft?
Yeah.
And then versus the, planned your trip 4 weeks ago and
yeah. So we are not in the on-demand space. Yeah. We need 1 hour lead time to give you a booking guarantee. But then we also make sure that there is a driver available when you need to go to your flight, and not maybe there's a car available. There is a car available.
But a partner like Google could trigger a booking by anticipating the need based on what they're observing with that user's other behavior, right?
Yeah.
I think the funny part is, when we started Priceline, we billed ourselves as this demand collection system, and we were very pleased with ourselves with that term. really the business today is built on the back of Google. So Booking and Priceline isn't the demand collection system. The primary demand collection system is Google, which is the homepage of the internet. So regardless of how you service the customer, Google probably knows trends about who needs what, aside from the fact that now they have handset and they have calendar and sort of Gmail, information on an aggregate basis, some personalized basis. They know more about your customers than you do, probably anyway. So I don't think it's not a black lane problem. It's an existential sort of worldview problem that we have to deal with. Google knows.
Yeah, that's right. All right, I love this question. When do you make the decision to partner versus acquire? You've bought companies before, and I know, Brian, you have a perspective on this. How do you make that call? When you decided to buy that company, why not just partner with them? What pushed you to pay the big bucks?
That with the acquisition of Solve, it was an opportunity because we were questioning our service. What can we offer to the customer? And then identified that you can have a great flight experience, you can have a great blackline experience on the road, but you're left alone in the airport, and that could be a hassle. And then we said why don't we offer that kind of service to our customers? And we did a pilot. We did it internally. Selected 10 airports just to offer that kind of service for free to handpicked customers and ask them for feedback. And the feedback was great. In this context, we worked together with Solve. We're also discussing with them. They closed their operations, and then we said why did you do this? And it was it's a very difficult market because you have customers with high demand, you have suppliers that might be not the most reliable one, and that's a pretty exhausting business. And we thought wow, that's exactly what we do at Blacklane, right? We have 10,000s of partners around the world, and we have customers with high demand. And this is how, in this case, we decided to acquire it, because they closed down the business and we acquired the assets.
So in a way, it's you dated a bit before you got married. You got a chance to really test out the value proposition, and it worked. So you did it. And it was a little bit of opportunism as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good. Excellent. Any questions from the squishy cube out there? I don't know where it is. Do you have any other live questions? That thing is really fun to hold. I see it out there on the desk. We could whip it into the crowd, and whoever gets it has to answer. All right. Here we do have a couple more here. We'll come to this. And then sticking to your core is frankly terrible advice. Wow, I love that. Build new core competencies to generate value is a necessity to survive in the converging travel industry.
In a world of sort of infinite resource, you are correct. In a world where I'm executing against a plan, and I've probably sort of sold that plan to other people that are investors in my business, I don't know that it's bad advice. I've told somebody I'm going to do something. I kind of have to do that. I also have a shrinking sort of time space. Every day I'm building something, I've got to get to the end of that road, assuming that road makes sense. If your core is a stupid idea, you shouldn't stick to it. But I think it's in a world where I've got sort of finite resource and a team that's good at some things and not good at others, I think if I've sort of understood that there's product market fit, people want what I'm doing, you should stick to your core.
So earn the right to diversify your offering, right? That's the winning strategy.
If you can fund sort of other activities through the sort of validation and win of one strategy, sure, you can sort of diversify. But if you do too many things, you don't have a lot of staying power. We
should remember that Amazon used to be a bookstore, right? That's what they mastered first. But what was it really? It was a mastery of shopping interface. They got very good at that and very good at fulfillment of, frankly, heavy, bulky objects, which turned out they built an empire off of those things, earning themselves the right to expand.
Validate that people will buy this, whatever this is. It happened to be a book because there wasn't a lot of fuzziness to what I was buying over this weird thing, this internet. And if I can do that, I build up this sort of core in logistics, and I build other SKUs into the world, which is what they did.
Yeah, excellent.
And I think also it's a case-by-case decision, right? For what we did with Solve, we want to make travel seamless. So that's, let's say, it's our core. But actually, our core where we started is driving people from A to B, or not driving them, actually getting them a driver that brings them from A to B, but figured out it fits perfectly to our core, the promise to the customer, to extend our service into the airport. But what you said before, building a chatbot, I mean, we don't want to sell chatbots. That's not our business. So they always say, highly advise, get the solution that's in there. Payment provider. We don't build our own payment provider. Get what's out there, right? But what fits to our core, make sure when you can extend the core, that makes sense, right?
And only doing what only you can do doesn't mean you only do one thing.
That's right.
Right? So that's great. Okay, we're going to end on that note. Thanks, guys, very much for your insight and contributions.
Thanks.
Thank you.